Hello, everyone. This is Carla Marie again, and I am so excited to share some new things that I am doing. For those of you that do not know me, I am a wife of almost 30 years. I am a mom of six, a grandma of two, and an author, a speaker. I have traveled all over the world. And done lots and lots of things with my nonprofit. And I'm just really, really, really excited more than anything. My passion is to
Mm.
inspire moms in every single season of life that they are in. And so, with that being said, I want to introduce to you my newest project. My 11th book is Dear Lord, What's Next? I don't know if you can see that, but it's embracing the next phase of life as your kids launch into adulthood, what that looks like. And it looks different for every single mom. And so, we're going to talk about it. And I am so excited to release this book. This book has taken me 2 years to write, which is interesting because most of my books, I kick out books like, recipes. But this one, it took me a little longer. I've had some bumps in the road and some circumstances that have really um, helped make this project that much more relatable and that much more valuable because I believe that any mom can find themselves in the pages of this book. And so, in addition to the book, I am doing 5 interviews with 5 amazing moms that are really reinventing themselves as they approach the season and phase after their children are have flown the nest and entered adulthood, or as they approach that season, or as they are right in the midst of that season. And so you're going to hear from these moms. They have so much wisdom to share. And I really hope that you can find yourself in their stories and get on that journey toward this next season and phase of your life. I want to read the back of the book because it is so relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. What do I want out of the next phase of my life? How do I relate to my adult children? What dreams have gone dormant? Where do I want to go? What do I want to see? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And
Mm.
I want you to think about those things as you are reading through these pages and listening to these interviews because I guarantee you, you are going to be blessed. And I hope that it gives you vision and inspiration and excitement for the next phase of your life. Um, I want to talk a little bit first about what season of life I am in right now. I have 2 adult children that no longer live at home. I have 2 adult children that live at home that are working and making their way in the world. I have one child that is about to be an adult, and then I have a 16-year-old. And so, yeah, I am juggling things on, juggling fire, as I usually say. Um, a lot of different phases, a lot of different things that, you know, to consider and seasons that they are in that I get to come alongside and enjoy the ride with them on their journey. But I want to introduce you to someone very special. And you're going to get a lot out of this interview. I'm telling you, she is such a powerhouse. Oh, I'll just let you witness the fire. But Susan Seay is a believer. She is a wife and a mom of 7, and she homeschooled them all. She is an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, and founder of Mentor for Moms. Susan, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this conversation. I know this is just about to be off the chains. So thank you so much for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here. 11th book. This is definitely a moment to celebrate. I think that the gift that you are to the world is that you were willing to go all the way through book 11. Like, I think the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that you have gained over the years can shed light on the path for so many. So, thank you for your commitment to serving and helping
Thank
others.
you. Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about you, your family, and your motherhood journey, and bring us up to present day.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I am married to my college sweetheart, Ron, and he and I have been married for 30 years. And as you said, we have 7 children. We have one boy who is the oldest, and we have 6 girls. And
Wow.
you were talking about where you are in your current season. And so we have 3 adult children who have graduated, moved forward in their own spaces, doing their lives. We've got one who lives at home, who's a college graduate and is working, and we've got one who's in university right now.
Okay.
We've got 2 in homeschool left after 24, almost 25 years of homeschooling. I got 2
Wow.
left. And I got one that's graduating in May, so that's coming up very soon. And then I've got the one last homeschooler in the chute. So life is taking on a massive transition over here. And
Yeah.
we are entrepreneurial as a family. We have our own business, and that's what we are consistently talking about in this household and constantly encouraging our kids to have an entrepreneurial mindset, even if they choose to go the career route. Like that's
Right.
perfectly okay. But that mindset is the key that will always open doors for you of opportunity. So it's just an interesting journey over here, one that we have been committed to from the beginning.
That's awesome. Wow. That is, and I'm in the same boat. I have one lonely homeschooler left. And it's been a different season for sure. And right now, he is actually doing what he loves. He's on the road with his competitive robotics team in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan at their first season match. And so it's different. It's really different because you feel like that last one, there's a whole bunch of last firsts.
Yes,
And you're like, am
yes.
I ever going to experience this again? But it is wonderful to see them, stretch their wings and do
Mhm.
things, that they've always dreamed of doing. And just watching the adults that they're becoming has been really, really a blessing. I'm sure that you would agree.
Yes.
Um, so let me ask you this. How has your relationship with your children changed as they have entered adulthood? What does that look like for you? And was it easy? Was it hard? What 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 was that transition
Oh, that's so good.
like?
Um, I think that it's been easier, I would say, for me than for my husband. Uh, for me, it was still challenging though, because I so want the relationship that I have with my children to be one that is a mutually desired, mutually sought after relationship. And I promise you that as they started to approach that season of moving into adulthood, I felt like they were sprouting briars like a cactus, right? And I felt like I was trying to hug a cactus, and I was like, I still need to love on you. And they
Right.
were just like, "Gah," and I was like,
You're
this
still my baby.
that's still not fun. I know my baby's in there. I
Right.
know. It was very challenging because I had to grow up. Carla, I had to mature and not let their reactions, responses, emotions, mood impact me and how I loved and talked and sought after them. I had to be
Wow.
big enough
That's
to not
powerful.
let those briars, even those painful sticks, keep me from seeking them and loving them.
Mm, that is so powerful. That is very powerful. I know that I'm a work in progress. I will say that because, I am constantly zipping my lips and figuring out how not to have the need to fix problems that arise or mistakes that they have, created for themselves. Um, I've just, I've kind of taken the attitude that I'll take each circumstance as it comes
Mhm.
and ask for God's direction on what role do I play, if any, in whatever's going on in their life at the moment. And the just, just remaining there as an advisor. And that's one of the things I was going to talk about. I have a chapter in the book called Parent to Advisor.
Mhm.
And that transition, wow, has not been the easiest. Um, and I'm sure that you would agree that it's hard, harder on some of us than others. I'm a recovering control freak. So um I am always trying to get better and humble myself and figure out how to change and morph into who God needs me to be for them. And so, that particular chapter, it hit hard as I was writing it, but I had to share what I was learning as I was writing it because it's very crucial. Like you said, if I want to have this relationship
Mhm.
continue past the age of 18,
Mhm.
then I've got to figure out how to be a mom of an adult and not a mom of a minor. Because I want to have a relationship with my children, in their adulthood and throughout their lives. And so, yeah, humble
One of
pie.
the Yes, one of the gems of wisdom that you wrote about is one that I too champion, and it's that understanding that we must adopt as true for us, right? Not just a good idea, but true for us, is that as our children get older, they don't need us less, they need us differently.
Yes.
And we often think of our children needing us less. So we're trying to prepare them with everything they need to know so that when they move forward and they don't need us anymore, they got everything they need.
Right.
But if we can understand that they don't need us less, they need us differently, then
Hmm.
we recognize we still have a role to play in their lives all the way through until God says we're done.
Right.
Not society says we're done, but when
Right.
God.
It's so true. It's so very true. And I will confess that when my kids were younger, I did have this 18 and I'm done. Not that they would, have to leave the house or anything, but that literally the parenting is done. Now it's done in the way that I've always done it, whatever that was for you as a parent, but it's never done. It just morphs and shifts throughout changes, throughout different seasons of our lives and our kids' lives because they go through, different seasons as well. And so, woo, that is good. They don't stop needing you; they just need you different. And yeah, I have found that to be very, very true. Now,
Mhm.
how would you say your adult children have benefited from your revelations and the changes you've made to relate to them differently?
Mhm.
When you began to kind of step back and hold your tongue, the hardest thing for me, by the way, and to allow them to make mistakes or allow them to make choices and not try to, take over and direct their path yourself. How have they benefited? How have you seen them benefit from that?
Mm. I think that each one of my children has reached this place where they have such a desire to make it on their own. Like, I don't want your help. I don't want your input. I don't
Yes.
want you to speak into this. I don't want you to tell me what to do. I don't even want you to warn me. I don't want any of this. I want to do it myself.
Yes.
And I recognize that that is such a natural part of their progression. And
And
I
we
want
did
to
it.
honor. Correct.
We did it.
Correct.
How quickly we forget, right?
Quick, it's so easy, Tom. Like we knew what we were doing though.
Oh
You know,
yeah, yeah. We had a
now that we're the parents, we're like, you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Oh my
right.
gosh. So honoring that that was so natural for them and allowing them to do it. I was willing. God had to really, oh, girl, he challenged me. He said, are you willing to be misunderstood? Are you willing is I always wanted to make sure my kids knew and I wanted them to understand that your mama loves you. Understand that your mama is for you. Understand she has your best interest at heart. Understand. And he was like, are you willing to be misunderstood though? Are you willing for them to look at you and think that your motives are wrong, to think that you don't know what you're talking about? Like, are you willing? Because if you are, then maybe you can stand in that place and trust that I won't miss with any of your children, that I'm with them, that I am for them even greater than you are, and that I love them even more than you ever could, and I'm with them at all times. I don't sleep. You get tired. You must sleep. You're limited by time and space. I am not limited by any of those things. Will you trust me with
Mm.
them? Not with your words, not in your mind, but with your heart and your faith, because you will just sit down. Child, I was like, well, and the way I feel like they benefited is because in that releasing of my grip and my control and my cares for them, I released them to a holy God who is always with them and ministering to them at all times. And it gave them the space to meet themselves
Mm.
and to understand themselves in light of God and not have my in their
Yes,
ear. Like they
absolutely.
were able to see themselves and see both their capabilities, gifts, and talents, and their weaknesses, temptations, and failings. Like they could see all
Woo!
of those
That
because
is powerful.
Mhm.
And just what you mentioned, just woo! Because am I willing to be misunderstood? Until you said that, I never recognized that that was a great fear of mine, that my love and care and guidance would be misunderstood. And that is so incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Jim. Because, like you said, God loves them much more than we do. If there could even be such a thing, right? Because we think that no one can love our kids more than us. Oh, He does, um, and unconditionally so. And so it's letting go, which is another chapter in the book. Letting go is not an easy thing, but it is crucial in developing a relationship with your adult child. And it is crucial with living a life of peace yourself
Mhm.
in this next phase of life. Um,
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You know, it's interesting. I have my daughter who is 18. She's going to be getting married soon, and this year actually. And she when she was younger, I'd say between the age of 13 and 17 and a half, she would never ask us our opinion. She's just like,
Mm.
and don't give it, don't offer it. I'm not asking.
Mhm.
Now she's in a season where she's asking questions regarding marriage, relationships, regarding motherhood, regarding career, regarding all kinds of things. And so when she asks me, especially if it's relationship related or really friendship related or something kind of a touchy subject that I can be very, opinionative about. I always give her a chance to close the door that she opened just in case. So I say, do you really want to know what I think about that?
Mm.
You really want to know my thoughts? Because you asked, but I'm giving you another chance to close the door because I am going to release volumes 1 through 10 on how I feel about that circumstance. But and there have been times where she was like, maybe not. But most times she's like, yes, I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't want to know. And that's been a blessing. And that has been a uh, maturity on both of our parts. Her willingness to ask for help and advice and guidance, and my willingness to share it in a unbiased manner or in a way that still allows her to make a decision and a choice that is her own. And so it's been quite an interesting road as you know grow up with your
Mhm.
kids. You're growing up too. They become adults, and you become a parent of an adult or multiple adults, and there's growing that has to take place in your mind and heart as well. God uses every season of our life for growth, doesn't He? If we allow Him to. Now, if you want, you can stay the same and stagnant, and your life will be stagnant. But if you look at everything, no matter whether it's a tumultuous season or a fantastic victorious season, He uses every season to grow us and to mature us and to humble us
Mhm.
and to bless us. And so what you shared was very, very, very good. Um, so I want to switch gears here onto Susan. We talked about your kids, we talked about motherhood. Now let's talk about you in this next season of your life. Over the last decade, or I'd say a decade ago, let's think 10 years ago, when this season of your life seemed like it was so far away, you didn't even really want to entertain it because you get irritated, right? Um, what were your plans and dreams a decade ago? And how have those changed as you are fast approaching a whole new phase? Um, do you have the same goals and dreams? Have they morphed into something different? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, when I would daydream about a quieter house, and a lower grocery bill and money that I could spend as I saw fit and not
Right,
on all the things that were needed in the home, in my mind, I was going to be ready to be all over the world. I wanted to travel with not the limitations of school schedules and
right.
activity schedules, right? Like just travel. Like if I'm going to
Drop
go to,
everything and go.
you know what I'm saying? Like I'm going for a time. How
Yes.
long? Until I'm done and then I'll be back, right?
Right,
So I don't know if I'll be gone a week. I don't know if I'll be gone a month. I don't know if I'll be gone 6 months, but I'll let y'all know, right? Like
right.
this is my mindset. And as I get closer, I still have a desire to travel.
Hmm.
I think that's still there, but what is different for me is I want all of that travel to be rooted in purpose. Like there's a reason for me to travel. There's a sending that God is doing for me to a place for a reason, whether that's
Hmm.
for my own health and respite or it's for a serving opportunity while I'm there,
Right,
of meeting people, of communing with people, of having meals with people, of talking about the goodness of God and His Word and His truth. But as far as my kids, I don't have this mindset any longer of 18 off they go. I
right.
have this mindset of when it's time for them to go, we release them to God's next plan. And if they're
Yes.
not sure what God's next plan is, then they should stay right where they are
Hmm.
until they know where they're supposed to be so that
Right.
they have that confidence to
Yes.
pursue all that God has for them. And they're not out there fumbling, trying to figure it out in the midst of a world that has no desire for them to win, has no
Right.
desire for them to succeed, and has no desire for them to walk in truth, right? So we have all of that here in this home. So
Right.
stay still. But that means that I'm having to adjust what that timeline looks like for all the things that I was on my
Yeah.
way to do. Now I'm like, oh, so like maybe I'm still impacted by some other people's schedules and other people's needs before I'm off to do my thing. I think that my thing is now being submitted to, oh, I have a new understanding of what motherhood is. That
In
this
this
is
season.
not that this doesn't have this tight timeline that I thought, that this is a journey that will continue. And
Hmm.
in the midst of that, God hasn't missed my dreams and my hopes. He hasn't let
Right.
those things go dormant. Matter of fact, He's been fulfilling them all throughout motherhood. And
Yeah.
I've thought, okay, I need to raise these kids, and then one day I'll be able to go do these. And God is like,
That
I'm
is
not limited by that. I'm not going to wait until a day. Let's do it today. So I
that
have
is so
fulfilled
good.
dreams all along. As I was reading in your book, and you were talking about fulfilling the dreams that you thought couldn't happen, and you were
Right.
doing it in the midst of raising your children. I was like, yes, the exact same experience. I thought being a mother of seven children was going to limit my life to what I could do as far as fulfilling the dreams I had in my heart.
Right. Hmm.
Instead, God is like, I'm going to show you how big I am. I'm
Hmm.
going to give you a big family that makes people's jaws drop when you say how many kids you have. Okay. And then I'm going to reach in and I'm going to pull those different dreams up out of your heart and make them real right in front of your face while you're
Wow.
raising these kids. Because that's
Yes.
who I am.
Yes. So, 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 so good. Wow. It's interesting. Now, let me ask you this, as far as your husband, um, say a decade ago, were his dreams the same and have those changed? And how have you merged your future plans together.
Mm. Yeah, the word of God says that I have no greater joy than to know that my children walk after the truth.
Hmm.
And that is becoming a greater desire of our heart than anything. I would have said a decade ago, my husband was very big on preparing them for life, of making sure they know how to make their space and place in this world, that they knew how to operate, to earn money, keep
Hmm.
money, manage
Right.
money. Like all of these things were super important to him. And that's where he was drilling down. I would say here we are a decade later. He still wants them to have a foundation in those things. But he's like, but if y'all don't know truth, if you
By
don't
now.
know the Lord, if you're not committed to following after truth, then the
Yes.
rest of these things that we have given you as tools to make a place and space are are so minor. Like these things don't matter if you don't have truth as your anchor, as your hold, as your
Yes.
basis for how you move. So I think right now he and I are in a season of being more prayerful for our kids, a season of us being more committed to giving them guidance and wisdom anchored in wisdom from the Lord rather than worldly principles that are true and that do
Yeah.
operate. But we're like, but these things need to take a second, third, 50th seat
Yeah.
because truth has to be in the number one spot.
Yes. I agree. I agree. That's awesome. It's funny because you mentioned about God doing things in the midst of motherhood. And I talk about that a lot in the book in how to prepare. And, you're always in one of two seasons, either preparation or go time. And, when you're in the midst of motherhood and the kids are monopolizing the time, the money, the space, that does not mean that you can't be preparing or that he can't use you in the midst of it. And so just know that. Now, you have to know what season you are in. You have to know whether or not God is doing something now or if he's preparing you for that, because that's crucial. You can tear your own house down, as the word as it says in Proverbs, if you are trying to pursue things out of season, and out of step with what his plan and guidance is for your family in the moment. So just always know what season you're in, and and be in lockstep with your spouse. That's important, whether it is through the parenting years, whether it is through this next phase of life. Valuing each other and each other's desires for this next phase is important, because he has an idea of some things that he wants to accomplish too. And so, how can you support each other in your next endeavors, whatever that may be, um, so that you can both enjoy, this next phase of life. So
I
important.
want to,
Now,
Carla, I want to
uh-huh,
jump in here for a minute.
go ahead.
I feel like this is an opportunity to speak to the women in your audience who I know are going to relate to what I'm about to say. I want to speak to the capable women right now.
Mhm.
Those women who have strong talents, gifts, who have always been ones who are out front and leading and going, who can find sometimes that motherhood feels confining to those gifts and talents, confining to those dreams and goals, confining to those possibilities that they see right there within their
Right.
grasp. If only I wasn't here.
Right.
And somehow those kids are tethering them and withholding them from something. For that, I want to speak to the heart of that woman right now to say that those gifts, those talents, those abilities within you are gifts from a holy God who is not bound by time and not bound by space. And
Yes.
he knows all the plans that he has for you, and he desires for those plans to come to a good end. But they will only come to a good end if you submit those gifts and those talents and those abilities that he gave you to him. And he has given you the gift of the children to hold you as he is refining you, preparing you, and maturing you in those gifts and talents and abilities so that when he releases you, your end is a good end and not
Right.
one you regret.
That's very, very good. Very good. And especially, you have some moms that may have, started a family very young, so they went straight into marriage and motherhood. You have others that had a career like myself they loved. And even though I was a young mom, I mean, I was married young, we didn't start our family right away.
Mhm.
We adopted our first three children in 2006. We were
Mhm.
married in 1997. So we had a long stretch where it was just us. And, and I had developed, some skills and some talents and passions. And it was interesting when I, decided, or when I became a mom, the focus changed. I didn't even care about that anymore. I write about that in the book, in the chapter that talks about the difference between purpose and seasons, how I could have been, there were seasons in my life that I thought were my purpose.
Mhm.
And so I tried to create and carve out a purpose for myself when really it was just a pit stop on God's timeline of my purpose. But once I became a mom, none of that mattered to me.
Mhm.
But I missed the corporate atmosphere. I miss, I'm getting together with my friends and they're talking about jobs and everything. And, because they worked outside the home, even though they were moms, and I'm at home. So I'm feeling like I have nothing to share. Y'all changed 5 diapers today. I mean, I don't know, but you can't get lost in the season that you're in because every season is building upon the next. And so, um, it's just important, like you said, don't get weary, don't get lost, don't get discouraged. Don't feel like, all my talents are being, just laying dormant, not being used. God is refining you. It's going to happen. I told you, I thought in 1996, when my husband proposed to me, as excited as I was almost offended because I had plans before I got married. And I know you did too. I remember you telling your story. And I was like, I'm traveling the world. I'm doing this. I'm going to buy my own house first. I'm going to buy my own car first. These were solo ventures that I was determined to do before I was married. And it didn't happen. I got married at 21 years old. And oh my goodness, and I felt like marriage and then kids. How in the world am I going to travel the world? How in the world am I
Listen.
going to do all these things I wanted to do? I thought those dreams were lost.
Mhm.
And then God fulfilled all of them and more right in the midst of homeschooling six
Right.
kids.
Correct.
Like, really?
Correct.
So he has a plan. Just chill out. Just chill out. It's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. So, um, in chapter 12, I talk about, business, jobs, businesses, and pursuits.
Mhm.
I remember, I write about this in the book as well. I remember it was last year, I think, and I was approaching this. It was right after my last three kids graduated, and I knew I was going to be left with one kid. And I'm like, I've never done this before. This is weird. Do I want to go back into the workforce? I mean, I literally quit my job in 2007. So
Mhm.
I've been home a long time.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, I started looking online and seeing all kinds of, nothing was familiar.
Mhm.
The lingo was off. All of the, I felt like I don't feel like I fit. And then, I was talking to my husband about it. I'm like, I really don't know where to go with this. I created a resume, and I'm like, he's like, you've created a platform, you've created a massive body of work. You're already working with moms, which is your desire in the first place, all over the world.
Mhm.
Just do more of that. Dig into that. And that's when the light bulb went off. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. Why am I doing this? Rip up the resume and do what I knew I should have been doing in the first place, which is just dig in and do more of what God had already been doing
Mhm.
around motherhood. So pretty interesting. But when it comes to jobs, businesses, and pursuits, how did you decide what you wanted to do next? or what you plan to do next, because I know you still have, two kids at home. Um, what are things looking like as far as what direction you want to go, and how are you making those decisions?
Hmm. Well, girl, it's funny as you're asking the question, I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm about to do next. That's the thing. I feel like I'm asking the Lord right now,
And that's
what
okay too.
is next? Like, this
Hmm.
is interesting times. So I am clear that Mentor for Moms is not the work I do, it is who I am.
Okay.
And who I am is expressed to people in different ways. Sometimes I'm doing private coaching. Sometimes I'm hosting my podcast. Sometimes I'm speaking in front of thousands of people in events. Like sometimes I'm at retreats with smaller, intimate groups of people. Like
Right.
God opens doors of opportunity for me. I pray about where I'm supposed to go and I go where He sends me. And I
Hmm.
have no idea where He is about to send me next. And I'm
Right.
kind of eager in anticipation about what that looks like. But I will give some reflections on the journey here. And I was one who, I'm one of those people that if I'm with someone, we're having a conversation, and we have this mutual place where both of us are stuck. My
Hmm.
thing is, well, let's go find somebody who knows. If you
Right.
don't know and I don't know, then somebody knows. So let's go find them. And
Right.
that is what I did with moms here in Austin, where I live, is that I would be gathering moms, and inevitably the conversation would turn to something where we all were like, I don't know how we're supposed to do this. And I would be like, well, somebody knows, and we got to find that somebody. And I
Right.
would in people who were subject matter experts. They were experts on different areas where we needed help and support as moms. And I would gather the moms and I tell you, get in here and teach us, help
Yeah.
us, equip us,
That's
show us.
awesome.
Like this is what we need right now. And that is what launched me into what I do today, is that I just am constantly trying to shed light on the path for moms to help make this journey just a wee tad easier, right? It's
Right.
got challenges no matter what, but if somebody
Yes.
could just offer a little bit of help, a little bit of encouragement, some life-tested, mom-tested wisdom, right?
Yes.
But don't give me some theories.
Right.
Well, I don't have time for theories. These people are growing up. The challenge is now. The challenge is not after I read your book, right? I
Right.
need I need your wisdom, right? I need
Yeah.
a Carla book that's got it packed in there. It's packed with mom tested, life tested, faith tested wisdom so that
Hmm.
I could read that, grab hold of that, put that into action in my life and begin to see the hand of God, the grace of God, the mercy of God in my home. That is how God has led me all the way through in calling me to serve moms in this way. And I believe that's what He'll continue to do going forward. I just get to watch and see exactly how that unfolds. I don't
Right.
really have a clue on that.
That's awesome. And you know what? It's so interesting that you say that. And I love that you said that, because sometimes people feel like they always have to have this, 5-point plan or this mission statement, or, it's important to know what you stand for. It's important to know, what your gifts and talents are and what God has called you to do. To seek that out is important. But we don't all know exactly what God is going to want to do in this next season. And I talk about that in the book, about being flexible and understanding that, if you're so rigid and so focused on checking things off a checklist, that you're going to miss the blessing of those spontaneous moments of growth and of opportunity, things of that nature. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, because you might have a plan.
Mhm.
It's okay to have a plan. It's okay to have a checklist. It's okay to have a bucket list. But God has a plan too. And sometimes those things line up, and sometimes they don't line up, or they look differently than what you think they were going to look like. And that's
Uh-huh.
okay. That is
Yeah.
absolutely okay. So
Mhm.
I wanted to read a short excerpt from chapter 11, which is titled Building a New Life.
Mhm.
Of course, being the spouse, mother, and grandmother that they all know and love is a priority in this next season. However, your days are suddenly open and free to be directed and curated by you again. You are no longer rushing kids to school, practice, parties, or events. You don't have any child related obligations or schedules to follow. What will that look like? Maybe you will host the holiday dinners and babysit for your grandchildren. That is just a few days out of the year. I am talking about the micro details of your days, weeks, and months. What do you want that to look like? And
Mhm.
so, those are the kinds of things that my book and these interviews are created to help you ponder. And that's going to look different for the thousands of moms that are watching this. Everybody's life and journey is going to look different. But what's beautiful about it is that the same principles apply, that you allow God to be in the driver's seat, you remain flexible, you seek and you perfect your skills and your talents and abilities, and let Him use them as He will in this next season. You won't be disappointed if you allow Him to be the director of the cruise. I promise. So I wanted to ask you, what part of the book spoke to you the most?
Mm.
You know, if there was one thing that stood out the most to you, what would that be?
I'm so glad you asked this because as you were just talking, I was like, oh, I did not get to tell Carla this yet. But it's actually what you just did in reading that excerpt, and then you went to that Selah moment. Those Selah moments at the end,
Uh-huh.
every time I got to the end of the chapter and I got to those moments, I thought, this is something that I have missed in the past when I have read books trying to gather wisdom and understanding to be a better mom, to be a better wife, to be better in my walk as a believer, is those moments where I pause to take in what I just read and then
Mhm.
reflect on what exactly does this look like in my life.
Yes.
I was such a voracious reader and so hungry for information and knowledge that I could go through books. I would read and read and read. I was underlining and highlighting and dog earing and doing all these things. But what I failed to do was pause long enough to say, okay, that was a lot of good information. What is that? What of that is for me right now? What is that for me to table for later? How do I begin to implement that in my life? What does that look like? I didn't take those moments of pause. So I think it's more than just a chapter, it's the essence of what you created throughout this text to give information, share personal stories of your own struggles and victories, and then to say, okay, now your turn.
Yeah.
Pause. Think about this. Here's some questions to help you think about this. Make space in your life and in your book here to actually answer those questions. Then let's move on and have another conversation in the next chapter. So I just love that.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's funny. I have a few books where I didn't do that, but most of my books, I try to do that simply because I don't want a quick read, so to speak. My books are usually, they're fairly short, quick reads, but I think that it is so important, like you said, to reflect on what you've read and figure out how it applies to you in whatever season you're in your life. So thank you for pointing that out. And for those of you that are watching, what she's talking about at the end of every chapter, I have a list of questions to ponder regarding the topic, subject matter in the chapter. So thank you for pointing that out. Yes, I don't know, because I think that's how I think. When I take in information, my natural way of thinking is to pause for a moment and try to, relate it to what I'm doing, to make it an experience instead of just a quick read.
Well, thank
So,
you for teaching us, Carla, because I was just busy filling my head with knowledge. I was and Carla's
because I
like,
wanted to
take
be
your
able to
time.
hold on to it. So,
Okay.
um, let me see here. So as we are wrapping up today, I want to know your number one advice for moms that are approaching the season or who are in the midst of the season and are like, I don't know what I'm doing. This caught me by surprise. I was so kid focused and now it's just us and we're like floundering. What is your your number one advice to moms in this season or approaching this season?
Hmm. I think immediately of Matthew, I believe it's Matthew chapter 6, where it says, "Seek first the kingdom, and all things will be added unto you." Instead of seeking your next season or your next pursuit or your next opportunity or your next move in your career, greater than that, seek first the kingdom, and God will add all those other details to your life. And when He adds a grace and a mercy to pursue those things in a way that honor Him. So I would say greater than seeking your peace, your time, your money, your this, all the things that we say, and we say those things, and we mean those because we feel like we haven't had them for a while
Right.
when we've been so deep in motherhood. But greater than that, for us to seek the kingdom, to seek God's ways and His will to be fulfilled in our lives, that way we have an openness. I'm going to tell you, there's a reason why God didn't release me to serving moms until He did back in 2007. And that is because the Susan C that was parenting these kids before, y'all didn't need her, okay? She didn't know what she was doing, but she didn't know that. She thought she knew what she was talking about. She thought she understood how the world worked. She thought she understood how parenting worked. She thought she had a clue and a plan, okay? It, you live long enough, God will humble you, right? Like you live long enough,
It's
life
so
will
true.
humble you.
It
It will
will.
set you straight. It will
It's
help you.
up to you to get on the right path after that.
You don't know what you're talking about. So when God finally started to release me to serve people, I was a different mother. I was a different person. I was a different believer in my faith. And so now when I speak, I pray that my words are seasoned with grace and compassion, as well as a challenge to always say that whatever we believe, whatever we hope, God hopes for greater and believes for greater in us. But He wants us to ensure that whatever He releases us to, that we are clear that our commitment first is to Him. So
Mm,
whether that's a new season of transition for you, whether that's stepping into a season of empty nest, that no matter where you go, if He's first, He will bless and grace you with everything else you need.
that's amazing. Thank you so much. And, you know, I'm excited about this next season. I know that everything, doesn't go exactly the way that we planned, but it will go exactly the way He planned if you are humble to submit yourself to Him and listen. And so I suggest listening. Get quiet, listen. And again, I hope that this book and these interviews have been a blessing to you, because I know for sure that I didn't see a lot of support out there, like this, and that dug deep into some more testy areas that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Um, And so I just hope that it is a blessing to thousands of moms and that you pass it on. It is going to be released and available on Amazon. Dear Lord, What's Next, on April 26th. And again, you will be able to get to watch all of the interviews throughout the month of April on all of our social media platforms and YouTube. Um, and I know that they're going to be a blessing to you. I just know it. And I told you Susan was a powerhouse and that you were going to be blessed by that. So, Susan, thank you so much for joining this conversation. I'm so excited for those that will be listening and that will have aha moments and blessings as a result of hearing the wisdom that you've shared. And for everyone else, please stay tuned and please connect with us on our social media platforms, on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram under Carla Marie Williams. And just know that it is my passion to inspire and to encourage moms to be the best mom that they can be and the best woman that they can be in whatever season they are in. So thank you for watching, and God bless.